Where does your consciousness go after death? The Buddhist truth reveals. What really happens when we die? Where does our consciousness go? Does it simply vanish like smoke in the wind, or does something deeper of us continue on? For centuries, this question has haunted humanity's greatest minds and ordinary hearts alike. We often imagine consciousness as a fixed soul, a tiny self, watching from inside our heads, the unchanging core of who we are. But what if everything we've believed about this self is wrong? Today's video will shatter your assumptions and reveal a radically different perspective, drawn from the profound wisdom of Buddhism. A perspective that doesn't speak of an eternal soul, but instead describes consciousness as a flowing river, always moving, always evolving, shaped by the choices we make every single day. If you've ever wondered about legacy, meaning, or the mysteries beyond life, this video is packed with insights that will open your mind and soothe your spirit. It's not just philosophy, it's a practical guide to living fully in the present, embracing change and cultivating peace. Make sure you watch until the very end. Every part is essential to grasp the full picture and unlock wisdom that can transform how you view life and death. If you find this video helpful, please like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe so you never miss these life-changing. Part 1: The Nature of Consciousness, a river in constant flow. When you wake each morning and glance in the mirror, the reflection you see is both familiar and new. Maybe a few silver strands have emerged. Subtle changes in the skin remind you of time's gentle passage. Yet that face, which you once recognized as yourself, is never quite the same from one day to the next. Our thoughts, feelings, and memories, too, are in constant motion, shifting like clouds across the vast sky of our mind. This ever-changing nature of what we call consciousness challenges a deeply rooted assumption that there is a fixed, solid self residing somewhere inside us, unchanging and permanent. Many of us imagine consciousness as a kind of owner of the body, a tiny person watching, feeling, and controlling the show. This comforting illusion of a permanent self, however, is not what Buddhism reveals. Instead, consciousness is more like a river, flowing endlessly, never twice the same water. Imagine standing beside a stream. Leaves drift by, stones lie submerged but unseen, sunlight flickers on the surface. The river is both constant and ever-changing, a seamless dance of movement and stillness. Yet it remains the same river in essence. Buddhism calls this insight dependent origination, Pali, Padika Samappada, meaning that consciousness arises only through the interplay of countless conditions. Our body, senses, experiences, and thoughts all woven together in a delicate web of cause and effect. It does not exist as a standalone entity, but emerges continuously, moment by moment, like ripples on the surface of a vast ocean. Consider the life of Mary, a woman I met in her 70s. Reflecting on her past, she shared how she once carried a restless spirit and quick temper, traits that shaped much of her younger years. Yet now, in this quieter season of life, she experiences moments of calm and patience she never imagined possible. She sees herself not as a static being trapped in time, but as a flowing river of experiences, sometimes turbulent, sometimes serene, but always moving forward. This realization brought her profound peace, a gentle acceptance that change is not loss, but life's natural rhythm. It's understandable why the idea of an impermanent self feels unsettling at first. We cling to identity like a lifeboat in a storm because it offers safety and familiarity. But this grasping creates suffering because it fights against the truth of impermanence. Once we begin to embrace consciousness as a dynamic, interconnected flow, a door opens to freedom. Instead of struggling to hold on to a fixed I, we learn to work skillfully with whatever arises in the present moment, thoughts, sensations, emotions, acknowledging their coming and going without being swept away. Modern neuroscience resonates with this ancient wisdom. Researchers find no single unchanging self in the brain, but rather a complex symphony of processes, memory, perception, attention, and emotion, that together create the experience of being. Consciousness, they say, is not a thing but a process, a dance of ever-shifting patterns. The Buddha offered a simple but profound metaphor, lighting one candle from another. The flame passes from candle to candle, creating continuity, but the flame itself is never the exact same one. In this way, our consciousness continues, not as an unchanging soul, but as a flow of conditioned moments, each influenced by what came before. For those of us journeying through the later stages of life, this teaching invites a gentle and compassionate acceptance of change. Our thoughts, moods, and identities are not fixed monuments but living streams. Recognizing this allows us to approach ourselves and others with kindness and curiosity, embracing the impermanence that shapes all existence. In the words of the Buddha, all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. Understanding the flowing nature of consciousness is not an abstract idea but a practical key, helping us to release clinging, reduce fear of loss, and cultivate peace amidst life's inevitable transitions. This awareness encourages us to live with greater presence and compassion. When we see that every moment is fresh. Part 2, Death as a Doorway, Continuity Without a Fixed Self. Death, often regarded as the ultimate enigma, stands before us like an imposing wall, silent, inevitable, and seemingly absolute. For many, it feels like the end of the road, an abrupt cessation where the story of me suddenly stops. We picture ourselves running full speed, hitting this invisible barrier, and then nothing, darkness, silence, oblivion. But the Buddha offers a radically different vision. Death is not a wall that blocks us. It is a doorway, an opening into transformation. Imagine a pot of water coming to a boil. As the heat intensifies, the water shifts state. It evaporates into steam, rising and dispersing into the air. Though the form changes completely, the essence, the energy continues, merely in a new expression. The solid becomes vapor, visible to invisible, yet fundamentally connected. In this way, Buddhism teaches that the death of the physical body is not the end of consciousness, but a transformation, an unfolding of the stream of consciousness that carries the impressions, habits, and patterns we have cultivated throughout our lives. This consciousness doesn't vanish. It flows onward, conditioned by the karmic seeds sown by our intentional actions. This process is often misunderstood through the lens of popular culture, ghosts lingering, souls trapped, or an immortal self hopping between bodies. These notions, while colorful, distort the Buddha's subtle teaching. Instead, think of the continuity of consciousness like a melody passed from one instrument to another. The notes shift and change tone, but the song endures, evolving yet uninterrupted. At the heart of this flow lies the doctrine of karma, a cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy often misrepresented as cosmic punishment or reward. Karma, in its truest sense, refers simply to intentional action, the deliberate choices and mental intentions we nurture. Like a skilled gardener planting seeds, our daily thoughts, words, and deeds cultivate the garden of our mind stream, shaping the landscape where consciousness flows next. Consider the story of John, an elder who spent many years reflecting on his life's path. In his twilight years, John came to see that his acts of kindness, small moments of genuine care extended to strangers, the patience he practiced with family, were like tender seeds growing deep roots within his heart. On the other hand, he recognized how anger, bitterness, and regret were like persistent weeds, choking his peace and clarity. This awareness dawned on John as both a weight and a liberation. The karmic patterns he cultivated in the present would not only define the quality of his remaining days, but also the very course his consciousness would take beyond death. This realization, rather than frightening him, filled him with a profound sense of responsibility and a hopeful determination to tend his inner garden with greater care. For those of us standing in the autumn of life, this teaching is both sobering and empowering. We cannot control every circumstance, but we wield the power to shape our mental landscape through conscious intention. Each thought, each choice, is a seed planted in the fertile soil of our consciousness, influencing the flow of our being beyond this lifetime. Modern neuroscience echoes this ancient wisdom. Studies show how our habitual thoughts and actions forge neural pathways, deeply ingraining patterns of behavior and perception. Just as these pathways influence our present life, so too do the energetic imprints, the karmic residues, persist beyond physical death, informing the next unfolding of consciousness. This perspective invites a profound shift, from fearing death as annihilation to embracing it as a passage, a sacred threshold. Death becomes not a terminus but a gateway, an opportunity for transformation, renewal, and continuation. Preparing for this journey is like tending a garden. We cultivate compassion, wisdom, patience, and generosity, qualities that enrich the soil from which the next chapter of our consciousness will grow. We learn to loosen our grip on a fixed self, embracing impermanence and the natural flow of change. In Part 3, the 6 realms, states of mind here and beyond. Across cultures and generations, stories about what happens after death often paint vivid pictures of heavens, hells, and mysterious worlds somewhere beyond our reach. Buddhism, too, speaks of 6 realms where consciousness might reappear after death. Yet, these realms are not simply distant destinations to be traveled to in some mystical afterlife. Instead, they represent fundamental states of mind, patterns of consciousness that arise here and now, shaping our daily experience and, when conditioned, influencing what comes after death. Imagine these realms as different moods, emotional climates, or ways of being that dominate our inner landscape. They reflect the powerful habits, emotions, and intentions we nurture within ourselves. Our consciousness flows naturally toward the realm that resonates with the patterns we have cultivated, both in this life and beyond. Let's explore these 6 realms in detail, not as fixed places, but as living metaphors for the human condition. The realm of gods, Deva realm. This is a state dominated by pride, pleasure-seeking, and indulgence. It's akin to living in luxury and ease, feeling on top of the world, yet often disconnected from the deeper reality of suffering and interdependence. Picture someone who chases after status, wealth, or sensory pleasures, basking in their own importance but perhaps blind to the needs of others. The realm of demigods, Asura realm. Marked by jealousy, rivalry, and competition, this realm resembles the restless hunger of always wanting more and never feeling satisfied. The ceaseless comparison, envy, and struggle for dominance trap the mind in turmoil. Many of us recognize this feeling, the anxiety of keeping up or the bitterness of perceived unfairness. The human realm, the realm we most commonly inhabit, balanced between joy and suffering. It is unique because it holds the precious opportunity for awakening. Here, the mind has the capacity for wisdom, compassion, and transformation. The human condition, with all its complexity, offers the fertile ground for breaking free from suffering. The animal realm, dominated by ignorance and instinct, this state is characterized by survival, confusion, and reactive behavior. Like animals driven primarily by hunger and fear, this realm reflects a mind caught in habitual patterns without awareness or understanding. The hungry ghost realm, Preta realm, this realm embodies craving, dissatisfaction, and insatiable desire. Imagine a state of constant hunger or addiction, where no amount of possession or gratification can fill the emptiness. It's the psychological realm of those trapped by endless wanting, never truly content. The hell realm, governed by hatred, anger, and aggression, this state is one of intense suffering and torment. It is reflected in lives consumed by rage, bitterness, or destructive impulses. Though terrifying to imagine, it is also a call to cultivate healing and compassion. While these 6 realms might sound like allegorical myths, they powerfully describe the emotional and mental landscapes we experience every day. We don't have to wait for death to find ourselves in these states. At times, we all experience aspects of them. I recall a conversation with Susan, a woman in her late 60s who spoke candidly about her lifelong struggle with jealousy and comparison. She described how these feelings trapped her in what she now recognized as the demigod realm. Through mindfulness and patient self-reflection, Susan began noticing these patterns as they arose, gradually cultivating balance and kindness, shifting closer to the human realm where awakening is possible. Understanding the 6 realms in this way helps us see that death is not a random lottery where consciousness is flung into a place without reason. Rather, the mental and emotional patterns we cultivate act as a compass, guiding the next phase of our consciousness. Think of consciousness like music played on different instruments. The melody continues, but its tone changes with each new expression. Our habits of mind are the instruments coloring the experience of being alive. This is why karma, intentional actions rooted in choice and awareness, is central in Buddhism. It is through karma that we build patterns that either bind us or free us. Our daily kindness, forgiveness, and wisdom are seeds that nurture wholesome realms, while resentment, greed, and ignorance strengthen unwholesome ones. For those of us moving through the later seasons of life, this teaching is both a sober reminder and an empowering call. We are not powerless victims of fate, but architects of our inner world. The compassion we extend, the resentments we release, the insight we cultivate, these shape not just our present peace, but the nature of our consciousness beyond this life. Seeing the 6 realms as states of mind invites us to deepen compassion for ourselves and others. No one is trapped forever in any one realm. Just as no one is wholly virtuous or entirely flawed, our minds are fluid, capable of transformation at any moment. This perspective encourages patience and Part 4, Breaking Free, the Path to Nirvana. If you've been following this journey, you might find yourself asking, are we forever trapped in this endless cycle of consciousness flowing through birth, death, and rebirth? Is there no escape from the ceaseless turning of samsara, the wheel of suffering? Buddhism offers a profoundly hopeful answer. Number samsara is not an eternal prison sentence, but a condition, a pattern sustained by ignorance, craving, and attachment that can be transcended. Picture a hamster on a wheel, running faster and faster but never reaching anywhere new. This is samsara, the repetitive cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death spinning endlessly because the hamster keeps running. What fuels this wheel? It is the habits of mind, our cravings for pleasure, our aversions to pain, and the fundamental ignorance of our true nature that keep it turning. The remarkable truth is that Buddhism doesn't just describe this cycle. It points to a way out. This way out is nirvana, a word meaning blowing out or extinguishing. It is not a faraway paradise or celestial realm. Rather, it is the complete cessation of craving, the ending of attachment, the moment the wheel finally stops turning. Imagine a candle flame. When you blow out the candle, the flame disappears, not because it travels somewhere else, but simply because the fuel that sustained it has been removed. Similarly, nirvana is the extinction of the causes that feed samsara. Consider the story of Grace, a woman who spent years wrestling with deep anger and fear, caught in the vicious cycles of old mental patterns that fueled her suffering. Through patient meditation and mindful awareness, she began to understand the workings of her mind, the way her habitual reactions fed the turning wheel of samsara. One day, Grace experienced a profound shift, a moment of deep peace and clarity beyond words. It wasn't the end of her life, but a turning point where the grip of craving loosened. She described it as stepping off the hamster wheel, finally feeling free. This experience is what the Buddha called awakening. Awakening is not about becoming a perfect person or escaping life's inevitable difficulties. It is about seeing the true nature of the mind clearly, recognizing its patterns without being controlled by them, and learning to respond with wisdom and compassion rather than old habits of fear and craving. Walking this path demands courage. Facing the deep-seated patterns of the mind honestly requires patience, perseverance, and humility. Yet, it leads to genuine freedom, the freedom to live without being dominated by craving or aversion. Practically speaking, this path unfolds through cultivating mindfulness, compassion, and insight in everyday life. It means learning to notice when the mind is caught in familiar stories of self and other, joy and suffering, and choosing instead to step into a different way of being. For those of us navigating the later chapters of life, this teaching offers profound solace. No matter the patterns we have woven in the past, transformation is always possible. It is never too late to awaken. Nirvana transcends our usual categories of existence and non-existence. The Buddha likened the difficulty of describing nirvana to a fish trying to explain water to a bird. It is the environment we inhabit so completely that we cannot step outside it to describe it fully. Though the language around nirvana may feel elusive or mysterious, the practice is simple. To live with kindness and presence, moment by moment, patiently nurturing the conditions for the wheel to come to rest. In doing so, we discover a peace that is not dependent on Part 5. Living now with awareness and intention. When we ask, where does your consciousness go after death? The answer Buddhism offers is not a fixed location or a final destination. Instead, it holds up a mirror to the mind itself, a reflection of how every thought, every action, and every intention shapes the ongoing flow of consciousness. This flow is not distant or abstract. It is alive right here, right now. Every word you speak, every choice you make, every moment of kindness or anger weaves the patterns conditioning your mind stream. This truth carries both great responsibility and immense hope. For those of us well into life's later chapters, this teaching can feel profoundly empowering. We are not helpless passengers but active architects of our inner landscape, capable of influencing not just our current experience but the very nature of what comes next. But perhaps the most important insight is this: the present moment matters. It is all too easy to become trapped in worries about what will happen after death, or lost in regrets and nostalgia for the past. Buddhism gently reminds us that life truly unfolds in this very moment. This moment is where we plant the seeds, through mindfulness, compassion, and intention, that will blossom into our future. I recall a man named Robert, who in his 70s carried a heavy load of regret. Through the practice of Buddhist mindfulness, he learned to greet each day with kindness to himself and others. Over time, peace began to grow quietly in his heart. Robert came to see that every breath, every simple act of compassion was a step toward releasing old, painful patterns. This is the essence of the Buddha's teaching. Transformation is moment by moment. The mind you train today sends ripples forward, shaping the stream of consciousness that flows beyond. The Buddha said, "All conditioned things are of a nature to vanish. Strive with diligence." This timeless wisdom reminds us that everything changes, nothing is permanent, and our effort matters deeply. We are called to take responsibility for how we live, how we think, and how we act. Spiritual practice is not a shortcut. It asks for courage to face ourselves honestly. It demands patience to work gently with deep-seated patterns that take time to soften. But the reward is profound. A real peace, a freedom from suffering and the endless cycles of rebirth. You are not simply living your life, you are becoming. Your choices now echo through time, shaping who you are and who you will be. So I invite you to begin, or to continue, this practice of awareness and intention. Observe your mind with gentle curiosity. Cultivate compassion for yourself and others. Let go of what no longer serves your highest good. By doing so, you prepare your consciousness to flow smoothly and wisely beyond this life. And more importantly, you find peace here and now, right in this very moment. As we wrap up this journey into the mystery of consciousness and what lies beyond, remember this: the future of your consciousness depends entirely on how you train your mind right now. Every thought, every choice, every moment of awareness shapes the path ahead. No matter your age or stage in life, you hold the power to create wholesome patterns, patterns that nurture peace, compassion, and wisdom. It's never too late to start, and every moment is an opportunity to embrace life with intention. Let me leave you with the story of an elder I once met, someone who faced life's impermanence not with fear, but with profound peace. Their calm acceptance of change was a beacon, reminding us all that cultivating peace is possible, right here and now. This video is packed with insights that can transform how you live and how you understand life's deepest questions. If you found value here, please hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more eye-opening content like this. Your journey toward peace and understanding starts in this moment. Embrace it fully and watch how your life and your consciousness will unfold. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay curious and stay kind.